When Anna Mary stood up here earlier and said the excitement, it doesn't seem like very many people are excited this week. So we're going to have to get a little bit fired up, a little bit more fired up than we are right now. Woo! Yeah, that's good. Everybody. So I know for a lot of us it's been a tough week, but today's our day to show what God can do in people's lives, and I think we need to get fired up about it. And so we're in the second week of a 5-part series called Stand. And actually, should have been week 3, but I moved it up because hopefully this story will get us fired up today. And we're looking at 5 different stories from the book of Daniel. And if you have your Bibles today, we're going to be in Daniel chapter 6. Last week, week 1, if you wasn't here, which very few of you were, you can get on the website and take a look at that sermon. It is up there. And we talked about standing out when God calls us to be different. Today what I want to do is talk about standing strong. And we're going to look at a story. And if you guys grew up in Sunday school at all, and you remember those little felt boards that the teachers used to have, where it was usually like on an easel and you put the story up there. Well, the story we're going to look at today, you probably would have seen back then, Daniel and the Lion's Den. And, one of the great children's stories in the Bible. But that's the challenge of this story, because a lot of times when we hear that, we look at it from the childlike perspective. And, we look at it like, well, Daniel, he's a really young man at this time, and that the lions are more like kittens, and they're just all friendly and that. And that's not true at all. Daniel, at this point in our story, is somewhere in his 80s or so. And he's been serving God now for 8 decades. So he's an older man, and I can guarantee you the lions that they had then weren't like kittens. They were real lions, and they were looking, just like a lion today will kill somebody, they were looking to do that. So we've got Daniel in the Lion's Den, again, well-known children's story. I want to bring a little context to it today, and we're going to talk about how we stand strong in the middle of opposition. A little bit of history. We're in chapter 6. And we'll probably regress a little bit next week, since we're having week 2 next week. Daniel at this point is serving under a different king than King Nebuchadnezzar. He's actually serving under King Darius, which is the 3rd king that he served under in his 80 or so years on earth. And what's interesting about King Darius is history records him as a very effective administrative genius. In fact, as soon as he started ruling the kingdom, he came in and he reorganized everything. He set up 120 what they call satraps. And basically that means a kingdom protector. Then he put 3 administrators over those 120. And Daniel was actually one of those 3. Their job was to protect against rebellion, to levy the taxes, to guard the affairs of the nation, basically kind of balance the budget of the nation back then. And so in Daniel chapter 6, verses 1 through 3, and I'm going to read this to you, and it kind of just tells what I just told you. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be throughout the whole kingdom, and over them 3 high officials, of whom Daniel was one, to whom these satraps should give account, so that the king might suffer no loss. Then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other high officials and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him. And the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. All throughout Daniel's life, we see him standing out, serving with an excellent spirit. He always went the extra mile for God. And the king looked on him and says, Daniel is head and shoulders above anybody else that I have serving in my kingdom, and I'm going to put him in charge. He'll be second only to me. And that sounds like an awesome day for Daniel, doesn't it? He gets a good promotion. He's still serving God. He can be a great witness. But the reality is, when he gets this promotion from the outside, it actually introduces a lot of trouble from the inside. The other two administrators that the king had appointed, they got jealous. And they kind of go Hunger Games on him, and they say, well, we're going to take this guy out. We're going to falsely accuse him and get him out of the picture so then we can take over that role. They were jealous, and they wanted to take him down. And in that spirit, they go after Daniel. And we're going to watch today as Daniel stands strong with supernatural strength that you can only get when you've served God faithfully for many, many years. And so from Daniel chapter 6, I want to show you 3 truths this morning to help you stand strong. And you should have a paper in your bulletin. The first one of these is truths to help you stand strong is this. It's not fun, but it's true. When God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. When God promotes you and raises you up, expect people to tear you down. I don't know how this might come true in your life, but let's say you receive a promotion at work, and a lot of times you think people that should be most excited for you are the most jealous or critical because you got that promotion. Or maybe some of you, you're really getting excited about your faith in Jesus, and people start making fun of you. There may be some Christians who will see you all excited because you just got saved, and instead of helping you along the way, they're going to tell you, well, one day you'll settle down and you'll be a miserable Christian just like me. There are those people out there. You know, you can't be that excited. Maybe God speaks very clearly about something to you, more controversial, and maybe you're going to downsize and get out of debt, or you're going to be a stay-at-home parent, and when you could get a job and make money, but you want to invest in your kids, and you're going to home educate, or you're going to do something that's not real popular with culture, and you're going to do what God called you to do, yet people are going to criticize you. You're raised up, and people tear you down. In Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, this is known as the poppy syndrome. Because whenever a poppy plant grows real tall and strong over there, somebody comes along and they'll chop it off at the bottom. Whenever somebody rises up, people often take shots at those who are more successful. In the U.S., we would call it kind of the crab syndrome. Because if you ever notice you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, and one crab decides he's going to get out, what happens? The other ones start dragging him back down and try to get him back in the bucket. It's almost like, well, if we can't be free, you're not going to be free. And when God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. And we see this story played out exactly like this in Daniel 6, 4, and 5. And it says, at this, the administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs. In other words, they thought if we can find some dirt in his closet, we could run some political ads against him and get him knocked back down. But they could find no ground for complaint or any fault, because he was faithful, and no error or fault was found in him. Then these men said, we shall not find any ground for complaint against this Daniel unless we find it in connection with the law of his God. So basically they're saying we can't dig up any dirt on him, but this guy has been a faithful servant of God, so this is what we're used against him. We're going to use his relationship with God against him. So what they do, they basically devise a plot to, and here's what I think we kind of call it Western Christianity. People often believe that, hey, if I'm serving God, I shouldn't face any opposition. You ever hear people say that? Christians say, well, if I'm serving God the way I should, everything's going to be awesome. I've told you guys I don't know how many times from the pulpit, that doesn't mean you're immune from the ways of the world. You know? You have to still be obedient. And what that means is if you're trying to do what God wants you to do, you're going to have people come against you. But sometimes Christians believe they shouldn't face a hard time. And the reality is that's not true, because we battle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual powers and principalities of the dark world. And whenever we're moving the kingdom forward, we can always expect resistance from the prince of darkness. And I honestly believe that's where we are at this point in Mount Tabor. At Mount Tabor, We've done so many awesome things in the last 2.5 or so years, and now we're getting some resistance. We're getting the world coming against us. I know we've got Satan out there working in people's minds, saying that, well, with your pastor leaving, that's going to be it. That's going to be it. You're done. Give up now. That's not what God wants us to do. That is not what God wants us to do. And over the next few weeks, I'm not trying to make this, not trying to sit up here and say that I'm awesome and all that. What I'm trying to get across to you, and I know for a fact because I've heard people say it, there's a lot of people that have given up already because I'm leaving. And it's not, I spoke with the lady just this week. She said the same thing. That's not any reason to quit. It's not. If I wanted to give up on you guys, I would have went ahead and left a month ago. When I told you guys leaving, I would have moved to with Mindy. But I'm staying through June because I'm not willing to give up on you guys, and God's not willing to give up. So why are we willing to give up on God and just fold before we even know what's going to happen? Amen? Come on, let's get that's good preaching. I don't care where you are. I'm excited about it. So, God doesn't ever give up on you, so why should you give up on Him because the pastor's leaving? That's not what we're supposed to do. That's the devil working in all of us. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you're not ready to face opposition for your obedience to God, you're not ready to be used by God. Amen? And I know that hurts to hear, don't it? If you're not willing to be obedient to God, you're not ready to be used by God. How many weeks did I sit up here and preach obedience, and in reality, little did I know it was me that was going to have to be obedient. I didn't know that, but it was me. I'm sitting here thinking, who in the congregation is not being obedient? And He's setting me up to see if I will be. Don't give up. If you're not ready to be obedient for God, you're not ready to be used by God. That's why usually I worry about very few things. But I worry about people giving up here. I do. I worry about it. I worry about the opposition. Usually I don't freak out about that. This whole sermon series is based on getting you guys back fired up. Getting you guys back ready to do whatever it takes. Back to the faith-filled, bet the farm risk takers that we've always been since day one. Amen? Amen. Alright. Now hit this first video.
Go for it.
That's how we need to be. Turn that up a little bit, Noah, and hit it one more time.
Go for it.
When the devil's like Mr. T there and says he's going to bust us up, we need to be like Rocky and say, go for it. We're ready. Are we ready for what the devil has to offer? I am. I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever opposition he wants to give us. I have been since day one here. That's what we've got to get back to. To be ready for the opposition. To welcome that opportunity to go against the devil of this world. And show him that what Mount Tabor United Methodist Church is all about. So we got these two administrators. And they're like, we've got to stop him. And so basically, they went to the king, and they kind of buttered him up, and I'm not for sure how, we're skipping through some scripture, but I'm not for sure how they did. I don't know if they said like, dude, you've been working out, or, shirt's getting a little tight, it looks like you may be at the gym, or, man, I love those shoes. I don't know what they did, but they buttered him up, and they said this to him. They said, hey, why don't you make a decree or a law that says over the next 30 days, no one can pray to any other god but you. Now this king loved Daniel. But kings in that time, as kings tend to be, they're a little bit prideful and their pride gets in their way. So he's thinking, well, everybody's praying to me. That'd be awesome for the next 30 days. So that's what he says.
Go for it.
I didn't want that one there. And so King Darius says, okay, that's fair enough. If anybody prays to any other god but me for the next 30 days, they're going to be the lion's lunch. And that's going to be the rule. So this created a problem for Daniel, because the other administrators knew Daniel was a great man of prayer. And it's interesting, because I wonder if they made a law like that today, how many people would worry about you because you're known as a person of prayer? How many people would say, uh-oh, they're in trouble? They knew this was going to cause a problem for Daniel because he was faithful in his prayer. Now, when we understand this, when we hear it, again, we're thinking, we heard this story many, many times as a kid. We're thinking that these aren't ferocious lions. They were ferocious lions. And we think that Daniel was a very young man, and like I said, he's like 80 at this point. He had no idea God would rescue him. He had to make the decision. He had to make a decision. And I go ahead now and hit, I think I got the next one. Good. This is, don't hit it yet, hold on a minute. And this is what I hear a lot of people say now too. What are we going to do when Rodney leaves? All right, go ahead and hit it, Noah.
Nick, I can't go out there and fight like this. I can't go out there like this.
Get out of there. Get going with it. Take him good. Get it all away, why don't you?
Adrian, what am I supposed to do?
What are you supposed to do? After all these years together, you don't know what to do. You ought to be ashamed of yourself and get out there and do it.
Right there. That's what you're supposed to do. After all these years of us being together, and you don't know what to do yet, you should be ashamed of yourself. You get out there and do what God wants you to do. Amen? Amen. Don't worry about who's in the pulpit. Because God, salvation, I've told people this many, many times, salvation is personal. Your relationship with God is between you and God. Amen? Amen. I spoke with a gentleman a few weeks ago, and this man's a homosexual. And he asked me, he goes, what is your goal? To get me to be straight? And I said, no, that's not my goal. My goal is to get you into a relationship with Jesus Christ, and then He'll take care of that if He wants to. Amen? Amen. You guys know what to do. It doesn't matter who stands up here. Have we had people fill in for me while I've been gone? We've had Ben. We've had my brother Randy. We've had Randy Frick stand up here and preach. Church is still open the next week, wasn't it? Because you know what you have to do. You got to get out there and do it. Get out there and do it. I'm going to give you 3 options this morning that Daniel had. First option would be to just simply quit praying. He's 80 years old. Don't you think it'd been really easy for him to say, I've been doing this for 80 years. Can I just take a month off, God? Would that be cool? I'll just take a month off. At least I'll stay alive. I'm much more effective alive than dead. So I'll just take a month off and forget it. Second thing he could have done, quite honestly, this is probably what I would have done. He could have faked it. He could have just prayed silently, right? Just being honest. You could just be sitting there. Rodney, are you praying? Nope, I'm not praying. I'm thinking. I'm not praying. He could have done that, right? Could have just faked it for the next 30 days. Or the third thing he could have done is he could have kept praying publicly, praying loudly, and risking death. And that's what he was willing to do because his faith in God was so strong. Now the question then arises, what in the world built that kind of audacious faith? How did he have such a deep faith in God that he was willing to stand up for God in the face of death? And that leads us to the second thought, and that should encourage you to stand strong. Kneeling to pray is what gives you the strength to stand. Verse 10 says this, when Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he went to his house where he had windows in his upper chamber open towards Jerusalem, and he decided to quit praying. that what it says? What does it say? Read that last half with me. He got down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he had done previously. He didn't change a bit, did he? The law didn't change Daniel one bit. You see, our first response to trials should never be to panic, it should be to pray. Never panic, always pray. But how many times have you heard people say, well, I guess all we got left to do is pray now? Why is that the last option and not the first option?
Amen.
Huh? Why is that? Because we're not being obedient to God, are we? We're not putting God first. And if you haven't heard somebody say that in your lifetime, then I don't know, you must just be at home all the time. Because I hear all we got to do now is pray. Well, you know, what do you think happens when we say that? You think God's probably sitting up in heaven and he's saying, well, I guess you're up the creek without a paddle now that it's down to me. You know, that's my southern version of God. I guess I got to practice possibly for next year. But, you know? I mean, can you imagine him sitting up there, well, you're in big trouble if all you got left to do is pray. No! God doesn't do that. You know, the thing was, back in 14 when I came here, how many people did we have coming here? 10, 12? You know, a lot of people thought stick a fork in them, they're done. And then they're sending this guy out there. Boy, they're just asking to close the doors. What happened? We've got like 57, 58 people here today. We're averaging 60 plus for the year. And that's with weeks like last year, or last week with 29. We serve a huge God. Do you guys realize how huge He is? He created the world in 6 days. How many people in here ever build anything? Anything at all? How long does it take to build even something small? Forever, don't it? You know? Just like I know yesterday we had huge plans on getting more stuff done. Well, we got out here, what did we find, Ed? The studs weren't where we thought they were on the shed. We had to put more wood up than what we thought. Took longer than what we thought. God made the world in 6 days, people. Any problem in your life is not any bigger than that He can't take care of. There's no person in this church that's irreplaceable, including myself. If God wants to work through a church, and I honestly believe He wants to work through us. He's been doing it for 2.5 years, right? Why is He going to leave when I do? Why? Did He leave Daniel? You know why He didn't leave Daniel? Because Daniel didn't leave him. He got down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he had done previously. Basically, as he had always done. Didn't change. Nothing changed. The law changed, but Daniel didn't, did he? Daniel's actions didn't change because you're not allowed to do that. Nothing's going to change here. If God wants to work here, and people want to do God's work here, then it's going to get done no matter who stands behind this pulpit. Amen? Amen. But I need you guys. I have to have you guys. When I'm gone, the new guy needs you guys. Or the new lady, whichever one. Whoever it is, they need you guys. It's not, you guys, and I don't have an ink pen up here, so I can't mark my spot. So, how many in here, since April of 2014, since I've been here, how many people have taught children's church? Stand up. Let's have people stand up. How many people have helped out at Bible school? Made cookies, brought the farm animals, whatever. How many people have invited somebody to church? How many people have helped at the food bank? You've helped at the food bank. You're just too lazy to stand for what? You're losing the effect here. Come on, man. Ted, you have to stand. You let us use the rototiller for the job in Limelight. How many people, who's left? Hey, Mike, did you help at the water event? So Ellen, you've helped. I know, you're
I
back.
thought we were sitting back down.
No, you gotta stay standing. So who's not standing? Is there anybody in here not standing? Okay, then I just guess, well, Ted's son, but he doesn't get to come very often. Yeah, stand up. So I guess that just dispels the myth that Rodney does everything here, right? That it's a one-man gang here, that I do everything. Because there's not anybody not standing, right? So obviously I don't do it all myself, correct?
Amen.
Okay, you guys, I'm just going to leave you standing the rest of the time. Now you can sit down. Here's our cry when we humble ourselves before Him. We can pray, we can talk to God. He delights in helping us. That is His goal in life, to help us through ours, to get us to a deeper relationship with Him. You know, and you notice here, Daniel didn't announce his prayers to make a public show, did he? He wasn't trying to get bonus points with people. It says he went to his house. He prayed in the same place he'd always done, just like he'd always done, every day. You know, because Jesus hated the public prayers. You know, the Pharisees praying on the street corners and that. You know, Daniel, he didn't announce it. Just like last week, he didn't say, well, I'm not going to publicly say I'm not eating the food. He just quietly, by faith, did what he always did. And that's what we have to continue to do here. Do what we always do. Seek the kingdom of heaven. Seek God's guidance in everything we do. We didn't see Daniel tweet hashtag I'm so spiritual, did we? No, he didn't do that. He was reverent in his prayers, and he'd always done. I'm absolutely convinced that so much of the success in Daniel's life was based on something we talked about last week. Pre-decision. Last week, he pre-decided not to defile himself with food that was set aside for idols. Here we see him, probably in his 80s, we see him make a decision that he's pre-decided, no matter what the law says, he's going to pray 3 times a day. Long before the law ever changed, he decided that he was a child of God. And that he was going to seek Him. Not just once a day, 3 times a day. We need to all start our day with God. We need to have some God in the middle of the day and at the end of our day. He's been so good to all of us. And we need to hear His voice. We need to know Him. We need to walk in His Spirit. You know, you need His ongoing strength. Because I'm going to tell you this morning, and you've probably heard this before, if you have no plan, you're planning to fail. Have you heard that before? If there's no predetermined plan on how you want to grow in your relationship with God, I can almost guarantee you that relationship is not going to grow. For me, I pray first thing in the morning. Now, I'll admit, I don't always make it at the middle of the day. But for me, it's in the morning and at night. I always set aside time for God. Now, a lot of times in between there, I'm in the Word to get the sermons ready and that. Or get the youth group lesson ready. Or we need to make time for God, and you need to pre-decide that that's what you're going to do. He knelt before God in prayer. How did he have the strength to stand strong? He could stand before men because he knelt before God. He's able to stand in front of people because he knelt in the presence of God. If you've never knelt before God in prayer, you're missing one of the most powerful postures of humility and surrender. You know, And I don't always kneel when I pray. Sometimes I pray as I'm going down the road, driving down the road. You know? While I'm texting and drinking my coffee and shaving. You know? You can multitask. I don't recommend it, but that's what Nikki does when she drives the bus, right? Never mind the 60 kids that are going nuts and drinking and driving out of the bus. That's why they have maintenance guys, right? You know? Sorry, I'm getting a little bit off, but, you know? It helps when you can kneel and pray to God. When life gives you more than you can stand, kneel before God in prayer. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I hope this series is starting to get people fired up. But at some point, if you're a Christian, if you're a follower of Christ, you're going to have to take a stand. You're going to have to take some kind of courageous stand. It could be against some world issue. It could be you take a stand in your neighborhood. Or it could be that your kid doesn't play in a certain soccer league because there's too many games that'll make them miss church. Or, you know, that you could break up with your boyfriend because he's trying to push you to do things that's not godly. Whatever it is, you have to take a stand. You have to take a stand at some point. The next thing I want to look at is, you know, when Daniel's in this lion's den, he gets put in the den. What do you think he was asking? Do you think he knows God's going to rescue him? I'm sure he's got a good idea that he's sure hoping that God's going to rescue him, right? But he doesn't know for sure. He showed God faith for a lot of years, and he's hoping that that faith is shown in him. But what if God doesn't rescue him? It's a good question because there's been plenty of other faithful people in the Bible that God didn't rescue them. You see, we're not talking about a Disney movie this morning. This is real life with a sovereign God whose ways are way higher than ours. His understanding is higher than our understanding. He'll often do things that don't make sense to us. So I can't promise you that if you take a stand, that you're not going to face consequences, that something's not going to go against you, that people aren't going to resist you, that you're not going to be left out of certain circles, or overlooked, or end up getting hurt, or feeling worse off. The only promise I can make you, and this is number 3, is when you do what is right, you can always trust God with the results. Amen? Amen. When you do what's right, you can always trust God with the results. Because here's the part that's so difficult to understand. Daniel, when he's thrown in the lion's den, he doesn't know the end of the story yet, does he? He doesn't know that for hundreds of years from that day on, he's going to be a Bible story in church, does he? He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that people are going to teach about him in Sunday school for centuries to come. He had no idea. He knew how he wanted it to end. And he knew for 80 years that God had been faithful to him. So no matter what, Dan the man was going to be faithful to God. That was it. That's what he pre-decided. No negotiations, no ifs, ands, or buts. And how many times do we have them in our life? How many times have you made a deal with God? Well, God, if this happens in my life, I'm never going to miss church again. You know? Yeah, I think I've told you that story before. When we had, before Mindy got pregnant with Rochelle, we decided that we was just, if she got pregnant, great. If she didn't, great. But every time she thought she was, I was like, God, if you please just give us one more time, I promise I'll go to church every Sunday. And for a couple times that worked, and then it didn't. Deals with God don't work. Deals with God don't work. You need to pre-decide that you're going to do what God wants you to do. So Daniel, here he is. If he saves me, I'll trust him. If he doesn't save me, I'm going to trust him. And this is Hit this last one, Noah. That's basically Daniel right there. And I love the Rocky movies. I know Ben does too. So it's kind of like Rocky Sunday, but there's a lot of good stuff there. That's Daniel. It's like, those lions ain't that bad. That king ain't that bad. Come on, is that all you've got? That's how we've got to be, especially in this time right now. We've got, when Satan's sitting there telling you, well, church is going to close, you might as well bow out now. You got to tell him, you ain't so bad. You ain't done nothing to us for 2.5 years. You ain't nothing. My mama hits harder than that. Come on. Knock me out. Because I'm going to tell you, there's nothing that Satan can do to you this morning that can knock you out unless God allows him to do it. Amen? Amen. That's where we go wrong. We start allowing the devil to say, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. Well, what did he tell? You know, before I started preaching out here, I didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm sure I listened to him saying, dude, you're going to fail miserably. You've only ever been a youth pastor. Did I let it stop me? No, I said, if I'm going down, I'm going out in a place of glory, guy. Let's go. You want to roll? Let's roll like that. And we haven't stopped for 2.5 years. So why stop now? Why start listening to him now? The God of 2.5 years ago that brought us back is still God today, right? Or has he changed? I think it's Hebrews 13:8. Jesus Christ is saying yesterday, today, and forever. He's not changed. Who's changing? We are, and it's not a good thing. If we're going to change, we need to put more faith in Jesus Christ to get us through this hard time that we're going through right now. Don't give up. Don't say, yep, devil, you're completely right. Everything we've done for 2.5 years is a bunch of crap. That's not it. Get excited. Stay excited. Today we have the chance to show the community. I don't know how many people we invited through the Cookie Blitz. It's been on TV. We put up posters. We have a chance to show people today what Jesus Christ is all about. Do we want to blow that? You know, you ever think what's going to happen when you get judged? When you stand before God? You know, in my own little warped mind, I think of it like a YouTube video. And he's just going to hit a button, and there's everything that we've done. You know, because let's face it, he knows everything we've done, right? He knows it before we do it. He's already into our tomorrows. So if he's into our tomorrows, don't you think he can take care of those tomorrows? But I think that little video, that's just me, but I can just see it. Do you want him to say, well, looks like in October or September of 16 you gave up. You gave up on me because I moved Rodney somewhere else. Do you want to see that? I don't. He hasn't given up on you. Don't give up on him. So now we see the King Darius. He's devastated. Man, it's only 11:30. The king's devastated. So why is the king devastated? Because he really liked Daniel. He loved Daniel. Daniel had been faithful. And the king's mad that he'd been tricked. He's mad that 2 of his top 3 men had deceived him, and he feels very betrayed. And he tries to get out of it, but he can't do it because once the king gave his word, that was it. It was law. So he doesn't eat. He doesn't receive any entertainment. He's devastated. He goes to his palace and he fasts and he prays for Daniel, who he's put in the lion's den. Now we don't know what happens down there. It doesn't really tell us that part of the story. All All we know is what doesn't happen in the lion's den, right? He doesn't get eaten. We don't know if Daniel was in there and he just dropped to his knees and started praying. We don't know if Daniel was afraid. You know, to me, if it had been me, I'd probably been over in the corner like, please don't eat me, please don't eat me. You know? You ever see the joke on Facebook and it says if you're ever attacked by a bear, lay there and act dead because you're going to be in 5 minutes? You know? That would have been me. I'd have probably been faking like I was dead already. But I don't think it would have helped. You know, who knows? Maybe he would have wet himself. I don't know. I probably would have if I'd have been in there, right? Let's be honest. What are you going to do when there's a bunch of lions ready to eat you? You know, you're not feeling real good about it, right? But we don't know what he done. You know? He might have been trying to scare him. We don't have any idea. All we know is that by the power of God, God shut the mouths of the lions. And I believe with all my heart this is a literal story that reflects the goodness and the power of God in Daniel's life. In the morning, the first thing the king does is he gets up and he runs over there and he's like, Daniel, are you okay? Has your God, and I love this phrase, and you can read it in the Bible, whom you continually serve, who you continuously know, has he saved you? Verse 22 and 23. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him, and also before you. O king, I have done no harm. Then the king was exceedingly glad and commanded that Daniel be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no kind of harm was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. You don't think salvation is personal? Right there. Trusted in his God. Sometimes I think we get this preconceived notion that God loves us as a whole. He loves everybody, but he loves us individually. He does things for us individually. Why? Because we trust in God. We don't always do what's right, but we trust in God. But there were the two guys who didn't do what was right. And the king, he calls them in, and he said, you guys are going in the lion's den. And evidently the angel was tired from working all night, and he didn't protect those guys. The king issued a decree that everyone in the kingdom should fear the God of Daniel. Because in Daniel's faithfulness to God, God was faithful to him. And then even if God hadn't chosen to close those lions' mouths, Daniel still would have said, my God has always been faithful to me. So if you're facing opposition this morning, and I know many of us are, remember, when God raises you up, people are going to try to tear you down. That's part of it. You got to deal with it. If you're going to be a great leader, if you're going to do anything, that's part of it. Quit whining and suck it up. Put on your big boy pants. That's the way it goes. It's part of life. If you're facing opposition for your obedience to God, don't worry, because that's what's going to happen. Worry if you're not facing the opposition. Because more than likely, if you're not facing opposition with what you're doing for God, then you're not really doing God's work at all. You're just faking. When God raises you up, people will tear you down. Kneeling to pray gives you strength to stand. If you haven't predetermined how you're going to grow in your relationship with God, chances are you're not going to grow any closer to Him. Amen? Amen? Some of you hope that you're under massive conviction right now, and that you need to set aside more time for God. Because when you do what's right, you can always trust God with the results. One more story and then I'm going to close. Who in here likes NFL football? Who in here likes the New England Patriots? Who in here hates the New England Patriots? There's a lot of people that do. Who in here right now knows what their record is? What's their record?
3-0.
3-0. Now what's so weird about the Patriots being 3-0? Anybody know the fact there?
They won.
Yep. Tom Brady was suspended for 4 games. So all those people out there, including I think Roger Goodall, the commissioner of football, thought that he was really going to punish the Patriots by suspending Brady for 4 games. A lot of people said, oh, they're going to be 0-4. More than likely they're going to be 4-0. What's that tell you about Tom Brady?
Same thing they talked about, so when he got put there, there's no change.
It's not him, is it? It's not ever about one person. It's about a team, right? There's still 21 other guys that have went out there with the new quarterback for 3. They went through 2 quarterbacks already, and they're still undefeated. When everybody without Brady, the Patriots are nothing.
And
One
even though
guy
Tom
doesn't make
Brady,
the team. What, Dave?
even though Tom Brady played for Michigan, God forgave him too.
And Brady's an awesome quarterback. I'm not saying that. The point I want to get to you, it's never about one guy. It's never about one person. We've been a team here at Mount Tabor for a long time. Just because one team member leaves doesn't mean the team folds. Amen? Amen.